Today on the Meta Report, we discuss Iron Flash. Today I have with me DP0427 and the world famous, long lost Ogre Barbarian.
Hooray!
Well, today we're going to talk about Iron Flash, aka Wally West, and we are going to AF going forward because he is the Iron Flash. Ogre and DP, you guys haven't really got to play with him, but you've seen a few of my videos. And so far, Ogre, what are you thinking of his kit and what you...
He looks really interesting on paper, and depending on what happens with the meta, if it ever shifts, I think he'll find a place. He's very interesting and very entertaining, it looks like. I assume you're having a lot of fun with him.
I really like him on teams when I don't want to go onto a big Wonder Girl tirade in the episode, but doesn't have Wonder Girl, he's really fun. He's really fun. And the problem I have with him is that he is extremely buff dependent. You know, buffs are very dangerous right now. And he also needs an enabler. I find that he isn't very good unless you're running, or if you're running Gorilla Grodd, to give him those extra speed ups, because he really needs to get to 5 speed ups before his kit starts to really tick. And because his damage is pretty low before that. Once he has a 5, he does great damage. He can do a lot of cool things. And he is, even against Wonder Girl teams, he does stay alive halfway decent because he gets those evasions so often. But the problem is he kills the rest of your team.
Yeah. I mean, when I was...
Seems like it could be a problem, yeah.
I came up against him, I think it was in the current, what's it called? The Showdowns with Mirror Master. And the abilities look interesting, but I only got to see it from the other side, right? So the one thing that I was looking at in your videos was the fact that he was gaining the evasions up on his turn. That looked really cool and really annoying. So, but I mean, I don't really know how effective that'll be in the long run, though.
I haven't run him on a lot of Batgirl teams, and I know in our Alliance Loot Batgirl teams, and he wasn't finding him very useful. And I think the problem is his kit does synergize with Batgirl, but he needs the speed ups. I'm going to mess with, and I haven't had a chance yet, but we really wanted to get this video out before the sale ends, just so anybody on the fence can decide one way or another, right or not. Personally, unless you're just a big fan of Wally, he isn't going to help you in this meta at all. So if you need gems, always get gems with shards. Never buy without shards. But if you're looking for a character that's going to help you, rank high in PvP, and you want a character that can counter this meta, this character does not do that in any way, shape, or form. So just so that's out there.
Oh, I was just talking. Yeah, I was just talking to you earlier about him, but in terms of his speed, though, now let's say if Wonder Girl is not a non-factor, let's say the meta changes in the future, do you think that he would be, like, for example, when Reverse Flash came out, he outsped the Flash. He started becoming, like, really prominent in that meta. Do you think that Wally will have his own meta if he has the same sort of treatment? If we can have a new meta, let's say?
I could see where it could be possible, because he does get awareness, he does get the evasions, so he has that synergy with evasion characters and characters that need speed ups. I find that because he's the new fastest character, you usually don't want to attack on your first turn because you don't have 5 speed ups, and his damage is pretty pitiful before he gets the 5 speed ups. But yeah, I do find that on a lot of matches, I open with his gift of speed, his number 2. So he gives it 2 speed ups and 20% turn meter to all your allies. So now you're suddenly way faster than everybody else. And when you're using Brainiac, you're just crazy fast. So it does enable you to do some interesting things. So I think that ability alone could shape a new meta, giving the speed ups, and you may run with other characters that like speed ups, like a Reverse Flash. So I could potentially see him, if you're using that buff, then you're using to speed up someone else to get another buff. There's a lot of synergies and combos I think that could happen, and there may be stuff that exists right now. But like I said, I've only played with them for one day, so it's it's a little hard to give a full analysis. And when we do our Gorilla Codcast at the end of the month, we'll have a better feel. But as of right now, he's more of kind of a niche, fun character than he is a meta-defining character.
Yeah, I mean, something to point out is he is a Titan, if that's something that you are interested in. If you're looking for Beast Boy synergies, I think he synergizes fairly well with him. Like his kit overall, it screams like it has a lot of synergies to it. Unfortunately, again, as Hate was saying, it's just currently not viable to the extent that we would like him to be viable. The way everything is right now, I am hoping that at some point he does become viable, though, because he seems like he's really cool.
I've a couple questions about his kit. I guess the first one, since Haig was talking about his damage being so pitiful without his buffs. On paper, what's being said about his infinite mass punch says that it's a heavy damage with a lot of additional damage if you get his legendaries and whatnot. How much damage does it do? Does it deal a decent amount on his infinite mass punch?
Yeah, I mean, the infinite punch, when you don't have the 5 speed ups, it does okay. I mean, I think it does like 10 to 12,000, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's not terrible. It's just not. It's not great because a lot of times you need to do massive damage. But once you hit the qualifiers and the 100% additional crit damage, you can one shot most reds because it'll do 30,000+ damage.
Okay, I mean that's fair, I guess. So, I mean he's on the level of most greens, like I guess, but his base damage is not so great. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say that. His 3 does probably a little less than the average character before the qualifiers. His basic doesn't do much damage at all. Once you get the legendary upgrade, the additional 10% damage per speed up on self, then it starts getting to a decent amount. One other thing to note, that animation always makes me think he's going to die every time he uses it. Because you see him run off the board and you're like, oh crap, he just died.
you gotta go watch Young Justice now. There's more references to that animation.
Okay.
A lot of his animations are pretty good, like pretty well referenced in Young Justice. But yeah. In terms of the kit overall, though, I had a small gripe, and this might just be me, but I was looking at like everything that his kit has to offer, and you guys were saying that it synergizes with this, synergizes with that. I was wondering, like, maybe it's too spread out. Like he's too well rounded, if you know what I mean. Like maybe he should be slightly more focused. Like maybe he should trade off one or two abilities to be more focused in a certain area, like have more speed ups or have more evasion or have more awareness or something like that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, they tend to they've been doing that a little more lately, and the problem with that is that you can go a character does very little, master or nothing. Or if they have everything and everything that they got was really good, you can have a game-breaking character that could, say, attack out a turn and then get buffs and then do massive damage and debuffs. If you have all that in one kit, they become too powerful sometimes. So it's a tough balancing act. So I do like when they're a little more focused personally, too.
Booger, how do you feel about what I was thinking about his kit?
Honestly, I think his kit is actually focused enough if you use it properly. I think he would actually be a really good enabler for the other flashes, just because he grants them the speed ups that they need, in addition to himself obviously needing it, and they all kind of feed off of each other. So I think that's a really cool synergy that the flashes actually have with each other. So I think that could be cool, something to look into maybe.
Yeah, that's one of the things I plan to kind of mess around with. The biggest challenge that I have is that all the people that enable him and the people that he enable don't have can't miss, rely on buffs, and those two things are difficult to go around right now without needing multiple. You need at least 2 characters to get around the evasion meta for the most part.
We said this many times. Why is it that none of the flashes can't miss or can't miss?
Because they'd be broken.
It just makes sense.
I honestly don't think so. Like Infinite Mash Punch, I think could have a can't miss component to it, and that would make it.
If you're faster than everyone in the game, how is it that they can evade you? That's my gripe.
Because Harley is that frustrating.
She's so frustrating. The frustration doesn't require speed. It just defies.
That's really all it is that
it's physics.
She looks at Flash. Flash gets distracted. He falls on a banana peel, and
I mean,
for legendary order, I'm pretty set on it now. I like 4-2-1-3-5, and the reason is that you really need his 4 to get the evasions to keep him alive, because he'll gain 1 evasion each time. Wally West gains 1 or more speed ups, so those evasions help keep him alive. I like the 2 to also gain the awareness because you open with 2 almost every time, so that also helps keep him alive. Now I can see if you're going damage, you might want to go 1-3 if you're only legendary 2, but he's one of those characters too. I think that legendary 4 before his kit is really viable because you really need those upgrades on 1-3 and 2 and 4 to both stay alive and do decent damage. So the damage route, I would go 1-3-4-2, or the opposite. The one I would recommend the most would be 4-2-1-3-5. 5 is good ability. It's a very good ability. It's just you need the other 4 to make his kit work.
So it's always his last. So
yeah, and I mean removing all debuffs and gaining 5 agility up, and then resetting his cooldowns. It's nice, but you don't really need the legendary upgrade as much as the basic ability just to get the trio when you reach 0, I think is fine on its own.
I have to say this because it just came to my mind. You said that he really wants to be legendary 4 or better for his kit to really shine. And the last character I really remember that happening to was Superboy. I'm not trying to be funny, honestly. I'm being honest. It's like I love these characters and they are really, really cool at that high legendary. It's somewhat disappointing to have a character that has to have their legendaries to be any good. It gets really disappointing sometimes.
That's also a byproduct of the environment, right? I mean, the fact that the meta is so hard and so tough based on certain criteria, it sort of ups the ante, right? That you need to be at a certain level. If the meta was more forgiving, then you could get away with more, right? But yeah, it is what it is.
That's fair. But all I was saying was that I love some of these characters that are really viable at like Black Manta. He really only needed L2. He doesn't need L3.
I
L4,
think
L5.
you could get away with L2 on this with the 1 and 3 if you're just going sheer damage. But he's going to die too easy without it is the problem.
Well, now in terms of character design in general, with the idea of legendaries, I don't think that this just applies to Wally or Superboy. This applies to a lot of characters and potential reworks in the future. So if WB is listening, this is something that, off the top of my head, I was thinking that a lot of the abilities that we put on legendaries can be tacked onto the base ability, which is what's happening for a lot of them. And we revamp the characters by giving them new legendaries, because a lot of the stuff that their legendaries are currently doing don't really feel legendary, or they don't really feel like it needs an extra upgrade to get that tacked on, right? So like, for example, good example right recently that made the character really good is CAGA. His invisibility now is tacked on to his AoE base move, right? So that in and of itself was just a really simple upgrade that made him so much better, I think. So, I mean,
well, that goes back to maybe they just want to leave something for the rework, the eventual rework, so they don't ever run out of characters.
That's true. That's fair enough.
Or if there's like a legendary, like a new version of legendary, like ultimate instead of legendary. So legendary suddenly become easy to get, but now you got to get the ultimate energy or whatever it is.
On Wally, like L3 plus or L4 plus?
Yeah, L3 or 4, because you need 1 and 3 to be useful. And I really feel like 4 and 2, I mean, I took 4 and 2 first because I really felt like you wanted the awareness, you wanted the evasions. It just depends on if your goal is to do more damage or stay alive longer. You can kind of go either route, but I think you want all 4 to really get the best out of his kit. I mean, you probably could get away with, you could probably get away with getting rid of his 1, but then his basic's not going to do really any damage. And that's why I like the 4-2-1-3-5. But I mean, if you only went L1 and you were ever to take anything else, you almost might want to take 3 alone. High damage.
What about 1, 2, and 3 without the evasion?
Yeah. I mean, The evasion, he gets so many evasions from those speed ups. That's why I feel like it's his best ability. But you need, like I said, you need the enablers. So you almost got to run with the worm,
Right,
or run him.
but what good is survivability if you can't deal any damage? Is my question at this
True,
point.
and that's my problem with him, is he doesn't bring anything else to the team.
That's right. And I'm kind of disappointed.
Like, he gives the 2 speed ups and the 20% turn meter.
I'm disappointed by the fact that his evasion is even only at 40%. It should be 50% at the very minimum, I think. Like, give him a 50-50 chance, you know, like Wonder Woman or Power Girl. Power Girl has more than 50% chance, or is it just 50 for Power Girl? I can't remember. But
Power Girl.
Power Girl gets the death immunity, right? And then Wonder Woman gets the taunt, the Wonder Woman Defender of Justice. I'm saying, like, those type of moves that sort of trigger off enemy turns, like, he should have a higher proc rate. Like, 40% just seems so pitiful. So, anyways, in terms of flavor, I mean, in terms of all the Flashes that exist in the DC universe, is there ever a universe where Wally West Flash is the fastest Flash?
I think so. I think in Rebirth now. Yeah.
I know that he is, according to most continuities, the fastest, just because he's the one that, like, isn't he the one that, like, opened up the wormhole to the Speed Force by himself? Or all the other Flashes needed more than one?
I know in the latest Rebirth there was something where he was the fastest.
That's the character they're playing off then, right?
I don't remember any of them where he has an iron suit, though.
Yeah, the iron suit's thrown me off, but other than that, like, Wally West has always technically I don't know about always, but he's been the fastest for a long time, because I know in the old Justice League cartoon, he was the Flash on that.
Yeah. Like, I like his base costume design. So if they ever put the skin toggles in, that would be one of the characters you obviously always want him at base skin instead of legendary skin.
I love his.
It looks so good. But I was kind of sad that he doesn't.
Well, it's more traditional.
Yeah, I was thinking that he was going to get a yellow suit and then a red suit. Like, he was going to get the Kid Flash suit, and then his legendary would be the Flash suit. That would have been sweet. But whatever.
That would have been cool. I would have liked that. But we got Iron Flash, so.
You know, maybe.
Honestly, I don't see what's wrong with Iron Flash. It looks okay.
It's okay. It looks weird, though. I don't know.
I'm not a fan.
You're just.
I mean, it'd be cool if it was like. It's fine if it wasn't Wally. If it was like some new character called Iron Flash.
His mask. His mask.
He's Savitar.
Yeah. No. Well, not. You know, his mask reminds me of Magneto's mask, but silver. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of what I'm getting. But anyways.
All right, so this is getting long on the tooth, so let's wrap this up. But the final verdict is he's a fun character. I'm determined to make him work because I like the way his kit, and I like Orm a lot, so I'm trying to make something work with them. But
really turns a corner on Orm.
Yeah, I like Orm. Orm is one of those characters I feel like he's underrated. Like, he doesn't do great damage. Yes, there's another character that can pretty much do everything he does, but better. But
he does 1 billion attacks.
Yeah, he does 1 billion attacks. He does the silence, the speed ups. Problem is, the speed ups aren't as good as they should be. Like, you
Meter
really
is just too powerful.
Yeah, Meter's so much better because I kind of wish they would buff speed ups, because you can get 10 speed ups on a character and it still doesn't feel like you take that many more turns.
Well, here's the thing: a speed up on a slow character doesn't mean hardly anything, whereas meter to them is huge.
Yeah, and granted, he does both. He does speed up and turn meter. I don't know. I haven't messed with him with reverse flash much, and I really need to. The only thing is reverse flash. That means they just both will go first and both miss. So that's my biggest problem with them being so fast. You almost don't want to go that fast sometimes.
Got to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, or at least,
exactly
phase through the evasion. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you miss, just don't get hit. Just don't get hit back. Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you on, Ogre. Working 33 days in a row is
to be awake.
You finally get a day off after 33
normally
days.
I'm in bed 2.5 hours ago, so
take a good long rest, well deserved.
Yeah, that's actually why I'm still up, is just because I'm excited to have a day off.
Fair enough. You should it's sort of like it's counterproductive.
Okay, gotta chime in real quick. I was just making a bunch of video for the podcast and trying to make some teams, cool teams for the video portion of this podcast, and kind of wish I would have done this before the podcast because I did manage to get a few teams to work. Now I was having a little bit of fun yesterday, but today I'm trying to make some reverse flash or make just some other interesting teams work. And I gotta say, Wally brings absolutely nothing to the table. Kid Flash, I like a lot more. And Kid Flash, isn't a great character, but at least he does something. Wally requires too much setup. I can't keep 5 speed ups on him unless I bring Orm and usually Grodd with him too. So he's not worth it. He is only fun in very rare, unique situations, but I think he's down near the bottom of the barrel next to Superboy. All right, just had to chime in that real quick before this podcast ended. Hate Mail signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of WROL Broadcasts, a subsidiary of the Oddsman and We Are Legends. To view additional content and support the show, please go to patreon.com/WROL Broadcasts.